What is going on, y'all? It's Wednesday, so let's get straight into this choppage. This next question, actually, I've seen the next three questions. They're all kind of centered around the same thing. It says, how did humans multiply at the very beginning? How did humans multiply at the very beginning? How did the did God create other humans outside of Adam and Eve? Which is digging into the next question: Did did God allow? Why did God allow incest in the Bible at the very beginning? Because if we accept that Adam and Eve were the first beings on Earth, right? If God only created Adam and Eve at the very beginning, then it comes down to like, okay, then if we are here, if we multiplied and got plenteous on the earth, then there had to be some incest going on. That's the only case. That's the only way that it could have happened. So it's like, okay, if incest was is bad, like you read about incest in Leviticus, where it breaks down and it just goes down the list, and it's the Bible has no problem with being redundant or getting it's like I think there's ways that the Bible could put things and it could be pretty clear, you know, like no brother should be with his sister, no matter if it's a stepsister or whatever. Don't look at it. Don't be with your mother or your sister, real sister, stepsister, no matter what sister, as long as and the same thing with all of them. But it breaks it down equal. Like this brother shouldn't be with the son, and the son shouldn't be with the mother, and the mother shouldn't be with what I mean. And so it just goes down like the stepson, and and then it breaks it and it says it for each individual. So it goes down in Leviticus chapter 18. So you understand that God is really all the way against the incest thing. So it's like, okay, why is he so against it here, but it doesn't seem like he's against it there? What we have to understand that from the beginning, God never had a lot of these things as the case, but they were the case because it kind of, we see at the very beginning things starts off kind of gritty, right? But then it's like that was all they had. That was how it was at the very beginning. There was Adam and there was Eve, and that's all he created, right? And so Adam and Eve procreated, and they had Cain and Abel. But then it's like it doesn't really talk about the women that was there. Why is that? I don't believe that the Bible is being what people would call sexist or anything like that. It's more like the whole story of the Old Testament is talking about Jesus, right? And for you to understand how Jesus came into the earth, you have to understand this. And it's following the seed. Okay? So the seed is residing within the men. So it talks about that. And then it only brings the women in when it's very essential, like when they found Jesus, them being like the first to find Jesus, or Adam needing Eve a helpmeet and understand and confirming the bond and kind of accentuating that, telling us about how marriage is supposed to be and all that stuff, and the virtuous woman, like, and like how Ruth was the carry on of the seed through for Jesus to come through still the Davidic line, right? So all these things are being set into place so that we understand how Jesus came into the earth, and then when Jesus gets here, he sets everything, puts everything where it's supposed to be, right? But before that, we have to go through the gritty. So even when we look at the gritty in the Old Testament, where it's like it seems like God is different in the Old Testament and the New Testament, especially how he relates to humanity. Like it was nothing for him to take a whole earth out with the flood, right? It was nothing for him to send a whole fire over in a whole city just because of sin. It's nothing for him to do these type of things. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, well, what's the difference between that guy and this guy who's all loving and saying like, yeah, no, that's not the case. And so it's like this is kind of like the same thing here, where we're looking at, yes, there was only Adam and Eve, and there's this thing that looked like incest, and we could call it incest. All right, fine, that's what it was. But at the end of the day, it's like that's all they had. And when we were able to multiply, you start to see that the spread start to happen, right? So at the very beginning, like when we think about Abraham was married to his sister Sarah, who was his half sister, because they didn't have the same. One of the parents wasn't the same. I think it was probably they had different mothers, but the same father, right? And so with that being said, then you see Isaac come in, and they're like, okay, Rebecca, that was his cousin. So it's like, for it goes into the sister, then it goes into, okay, further, then it goes down to the cousin, and then eventually it gets into the, like, okay, we're not even in the same family section like that. Now you could be with, someone else. So that's kind of how it went. So it starts off really close, and then it begins to branch out, and then he's like, okay, this is where I want you to be, and he sets everything in place. Then when Jesus comes, he puts a deeper spin on the whole thing, a deeper understanding. Like, Jesus comes as the clarity. At first, we seen through a glass darkly, right? We didn't fully comprehend how things were supposed to be, and then Jesus comes and he sets everything in motion. He says, okay, actually, let's take this a bit deeper, and say, okay, now when we talk about sexual relationships, um, it should be between a man and a woman, a husband and wife, and you shouldn't even look at another woman, um, or else that's going to be considered less, like you've already committed adultery already if you just looked at a woman with those intentions. So Jesus comes and he just sets it like, ugh, this is how you're supposed to be. So that's how it was supposed to be from the very beginning. But like I said at the beginning, things were kind of gritty. Things weren't set in place. Jesus hadn't come yet, and even ultimately, we see the first shift between how it used to be and how it's spread out was when Moses goes into Mount Sinai and he comes down with the word, what comes down with scripture, or with the commandments, and he starts setting everything in place. And that's why you're seeing all the rules and commandments and the duties of the Israelites and the men, and how they're supposed to act and respond. It was a lot, and then you see that in Deuteronomy and Leviticus and stuff like that. So there you go.